So hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we are going to learn about how we can create endpoints in Qwik. So what basically this endpoint means, like whenever you are trying to use some kind of backend, right? So you can also create backend on the Qwik, right? So how you can do this? You can create the endpoint. So endpoints is simply the endpoints which you can through which you can access data, send data, add data, and everything whatever you will want to do with an API, right? So you can create your own backend, right, in your Qwik JS application itself, right? So to do this, you just so here we have an example. So what basically we just have to do, we just have to create an index.ts file, and here in this file we have to import something, import a type which is the request handler. So what basically this does, basically it defines all the type which is required to create an endpoint. Okay, and after then this you just import a functional which is by default provided by Qwik.js, right? So you basically destructure all of these props, all of these functions that is being given by this request handler, and you are just going to access this JSON from this, right? And after this, when you whatever you want to send as a response, whenever someone like to access this endpoint, and you just want to give some information which he or she or maybe anyone can access and can be used in their component, right? So let's first create an endpoint. So by doing that, we will by sure we are going to understand this in a much simpler way, or much in a much clearer way, right? So to do this, I am just going to to make sure that you will understand what basically we are here creating an API, right? So I am just going to create a folder here in our route section, because this is the section from where we are creating our endpoints, right? So whatever the folder name we are taking here will be considered as an API endpoint, right? So here in this for example, as I had created the first in my route section, I am just going to create an folder which I'm going to give a name of API, right? And after doing this, why it is not happening, right? I don't know why. Okay, it is there. So here we have this folder API, and in this I am just going to, let's suppose, create an hello world endpoint, right? So I'm just going to give it a name like index.js. So index.ts in our case, right? So why basically index.ts? So the simple reason is this: whenever I just want to route some files to that specific path, I just have to create that index file, right? So that's why I had just created this index.ts, and instead of, as you can see here, instead of index.tsx, here I had created that index.ts, because here I just don't want to render any component, right? So my intention is to just create an endpoint, right? So we are just going to do the same thing. We are just going to import this request handler, right? And let's import this import request handler from Qwik, right? And here we are also going to specify, okay, this request handler is a type, right? So this is the type which is provided by this Qwik, right? And here I am just going to create an endpoint, right? So to create an endpoint, firstly we just have to, as usually as when we are creating our components, right? So here we are basically, what we do, here we create the components, right? So here we mention that okay, export default component, and this component is directly being rendered to this path, right? For this example, it would be blog, then some another part, maybe it's 1 2 3, and at this endpoint, this here we will find this index.tsx content, right? But in this case, here we are not going to create an component, right? So here basically we just want to create an endpoint. Okay, so to do that endpoint, we have a different methods, like if we are just going to use this on get, right, so it will create an get path and get API, right? So let's create our first get API. So we just have to use this export, then const, and then on get. And here, after doing this, I'm just going to specify that what is whatever being the data is being passed here or here or being received at this on get endpoint is being handled by this request handler type. Okay, so if you are just more interested to see what is this request handler, you can just click on this, and here you will see an exported file, okay, which is a TypeScript, which is written in TypeScript. And as you go further here, right, so as you just going to click here, as you can see, here is an function, and basically it returns a promise. Okay, and that promise is also specifying it could be a void. That void means it could be anything, whatever it could output. It could output anything. So it's not restricted to that. It should be a string, it should be a boolean, or it should be an object, right? So the output could be anything. And as you can see, and all these methods in this platform, and this is Qwik city, and all this is request event. All this is provided by our Qwik application. Okay, so as of now, just we are just not more interested in doing discussion around all these. So I'm just going to show you how you can do this, and I'm also going to explain why I am using this JSON and all this, right? So this JSON is not a string. So basically what I does here, as you can see, let's break it down first. So I just create I am just going to remove this so that you can easily understand what I am doing here. And even I am just going to remove this also. Okay, so basically what I am doing here, I had just created a callback arrow function, right? So it's an arrow function, and the name of this arrow function is onGet, right? Simple. It's nothing different, right? And by doing all this, I'm just willing to return something, right? So I just simply write, okay, this is our hello page. This is our hello page. Okay, so for example, I am just willing to return this. Okay, but now as an endpoint, if I just want to use this function as an endpoint, I just have to do a simple thing. I have to specify this. Okay, this is our request type. Okay, this is an endpoint, this is not a simple function. So to do this, I am just using this request handler, which I am firstly imported from that Qwik city, builder.qwikcity, right? And then I just specify its type to this function. Okay, so whatever being the output is being given by this onGet function, okay, is it should be the same as whatever being specified as in request handler, specifying in this request handler function, right? Or request handler type, right, which is provided by Qwik city. Okay, so by doing this, I am just specifying, okay, this is not a regular function, it's an endpoint. Okay, it's a endpoint from where I can make get request, post request, or anything, right? Great. And after all this, I just have to return something from there. So for example, whenever someone going to access this point, I am just going to give some status code and some message. So in our case, I am just going to copy this, or I can even type this. So I just mention here, okay, I am just firstly want to change all of our data in JSON format. Okay, so to do this, I am just typing the JSON, and then this is our status code, right? So so 200 is the successful is the status code representing the successful request. Okay, and here I am just going to type our message, MESSG. It could be like it is not required that you just going to type always message. You can use anything, whatever you want. For example, in our case, I am just going to declare is as an data, right? So it's a variable, right? It's a kind of variable, so you don't have to think much about this, and here you can also type anything. So this is our hello page, hello endpoint, right? Let's write this hello endpoint, right? And after doing all this, you will see here you will have a red mark. And why it is so? Because JSON is not means to be the JSON, and JSON is not declared also, right? So to counter this, I just want to inform our application that okay, this JSON is coming from this request handler. Okay, and even though this JSON is also coming from this request handler, and after destructuring this, we will get our JSON, right? So great. And after doing all this, if I'm just going to access this endpoint, for example, let's first run this application. So it's running on 5007, right? So let's first execute this. Okay, and now if I'm just going to access this endpoint in our application, we must have an endpoint. For example, let's first access this endpoint, and after accessing this endpoint, I'm just going to access my API route, right? So let's access my API route, and if I just enter here, you will see it's not page not found. Okay, so why it is so? Because here it is not here. I forget to export this, right? So let's first export this export, right? And after doing this, if I just going to refresh this page, we will have our data, right? As you can see, this is the work of this JSON, which basically serialize this data, whatever we just mentioned here, to a specific section. And even though if you just going to see here in our network section, right? Let's hit this endpoint once again, and here we will find a response, right? As you can see, here we will have our 200 status codes. It's a get method, and the response is data. This is our hello world hello endpoint. Okay, hello world endpoint, right? So like this, you can even create your endpoints to this application, right? You can even create your endpoints like this. Okay, now basically what you can do, as you had created your endpoint, right? So you can access this data into your any of your component, as same as you are hitting an API, right? So let's try to access this. And to make an API request, what we had learned earlier, we just have to use this use resource, right? So let's copy the use resource code from here, from our, so it's route loaders, and so here we have our endpoints. So we can simply access the data from our endpoint like this, right? So let's first access this data. So to access this data, I am just going to create an fetch request. Okay, and even though I also have to use this resource loader, right? So let's use this resource loader, and whatever the data is being so it is exactly actually it's not compulsory that you are always going to use this resource loader. You can even use directly, you can even directly use this fetch request. Okay, so I can show you how you can do this. So let's simply make an API request, and whatever being the data we have, I'm just going to get this data from here, and let's make a fetch request, fetch. Okay, and it's a simple fetch request, so I'm just going to replace this to my endpoint. So let's copy this and place it here, right? So this is our endpoint, and as you can see, what is this? I had copied something which is not required. Let's copy this once again, and this is my endpoint, right? And just to make sure that everything works fine, I am just going to do something. Let's because it's a promise, right? So let's do the same as whatever, if it is all goes well, it will return me something response, right? So I'm just going to capture this response. Let's return this response, right? So let's return response, and after returning this response, I'm just going to use again this then function, right? And after this, whatever the response I'm getting from here, okay, so here I am just going to convert this into the JSON format, right? Response.json, like so, and whatever being the response I am getting here, I am just going to console this out, right? Let's console.log our response, right? So I'm just going to check if it is going to get into that console or not, and now I think everything is good. So I'm just going to access my endpoint. So what is that endpoint? I'm just going to access my contacts endpoint, right? So let's copy this first and open this into a different route, and now instead of an API, I'm just going to use this as your NTACT contact, right? So as you can see, if I just go to the inspect section, and in that console you don't find anything here, right? If even though I am just going to enter this, you are still not going to get anything. Why? Because it may have you will receive this like here, okay? And just to make sure that you understand that we are just getting this data, that is that this is our response from this console.log. Let's add something else here also. So let's first print a response string, and then finally our data, right? So now I'm just going to print this, hide this endpoint once again, and now you will see that this is the response and this is our data, which is now coming from here, okay? So what does it mean? It simply means that you can even store this data into your state, okay? So as you can see, as you know that in Qwik application we use signal. So let's first import this use signal, right? And let's create our component. So let's create our component, and what should be in the name of our component? Name of our state. So let's string data, right? So let's str data is the name of our string, name of this uString, right? And now I'm just going to change its value. Let's first give it something like, for example, maybe it's a Vikas, and this Vikas is going to be replaced with this replaced by the data which is coming from this response, okay? So instead of as you can see in our section in our console, that we have this data attribute, like, okay? And in this data attribute we have our data, okay? So to store the data, so to store directly the data section, I just have to access it like so, response.data, right? And instead of now console this to our terminal, I am just going to store this data into my string data, right? So let's do this. So to do that, I am just going to give instruction to my component, right? Okay, that I am just going to willing to store this response data to our string data, right? So to do this, I am just have to use this string data dot value is equals to response data, right? So after, if everything works fine or works good, it must going to store this response dot data into our str data section, okay? And to make sure that we have our data there, I'm just also going to print it like here, okay? So after this statement that this is contact, we must have this it should display whatever the value, whatever the data, whatever the string coming from this endpoint, right? So let's save this, and if you just go to our section or our endpoint, this contact endpoint, and if I just going to refresh this once again, you will find, okay, this is the Vikas, this is contact, and it's simply Vikas. Okay, so why it is Vikas? Because initially I had given it's a value that is Vikas. Okay, so the next point, maybe you are more fond of to know that why it is not replaced with this the data which is coming from this response.data section. Okay, so it's not the case that it is not there or it is not getting updated, but the simpler case is that just to access that data I have to use this str data dot value, right? So now if I just going to refresh this page or access this endpoint once again, okay, so it's not basically getting changed, because after fetching this data, after all this, it is not getting updated. Okay, but it should, right? Yeah, it should. So okay, maybe the reason is str data. Maybe the reason is I should wrap this into this. Maybe, I don't know. Is this going to work or not? Let's refresh this once again, and my battery is also getting down. It's not an issue. I just have to put this into charge. Let's bring the charge to my laptop. Great. And after doing this, okay, I am thinking of that I am facing some issue while updating this, while trying to update this use signal or use this state. Okay, so what should I do? I think I should move further and will find out why it is not updating. Okay, as it is a promise, after updating this it should replace that value of that use signal, but it is not replacing its value. Okay, not an issue, we will find this in some another video. Okay, for now I think you had understand how you can create your initial endpoints like so. Okay, and how you can access the data which access your data in your own component, right? So for now I am just going to leave this video. I'm just going to end this video here, and we'll learn something new in our next video. Okay, so have a nice day and goodbye.